talked about it. So there's a lot of work there. Renovate this fire station. It definitely needs it. I mean, you know, we made a significant investment in our police station. We have to do the same for our fire station as well. Renovate the DPW facility. You want me to show all of you down to the barn, but it definitely can use some work. So in our long-term plan, we're going to look at that. A new town hall, improved management and labor relations. Enough said with just that one there alone. And then the last area that we're going to be focusing on is implement responsible growth management while maintaining a community character. And this one's a big challenge. And then just kind of a timeline. You know, what we're trying to do here is really look at the next 3 years to 5 years. And a lot of this stuff isn't going to be solved over that time, but we have to get to work. And hopefully we will. Hopefully we'll have a few of these objectives like wastewater. We'll have it solved over the next 3 years, because I think that has one of the most significant impacts on our town. But I can't emphasize enough, we have to do this as a board. We need the community's involvement. We need your participation. We also need all our committees, especially our finance committee, our school committee, to be actively involved in this. This just can't be a top-down approach. It has to be across the board. It's also associated with this executive summary is making sure that we have a 5-year plan, which we do, and we need to stay committed to doing that. And we have this financial planning team that helps us work towards that every year and keep it fresh. And you can read more about it as you go along. I'm not going to read the whole thing to you. And then in summary, you know, this document is a living document. You heard Jeff talk about it earlier. It's a continuous living plan. You know, every 6 months, every 3 months, if we want to update this, we can. You know, because this is our plan. We may not like it 100% today. I know it's not perfect, but we tried to put together at least an initial cut, and I think we can add a lot to improve it over the next even 3 months. But I would like that we take it on and sign it tonight, at least this version, or at least have an agreement to move forward to come up with a version that we can sign in the next 2 to 3 weeks, because we really need to get to work. We need to start assigning those objectives to committee members, and to get out and start building your teams, and start working with Greg and his staff, to start building some goals that will feed to accomplish the objective. So thank you for giving me this long time to go through this. I hope I didn't read too much of the document to you. I would appreciate once it's signed that we do get it out there to the public and let them have an opportunity to read it. And we welcome the feedback, because it's probably not, I know it's not perfect. As you heard here amongst the committee, we know it's not perfect. But your feedback will make it better, you'll make us better. But at least this is a great foundation for us to start working towards really long-term stability for our town. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Mike. Discussion? Mr. Delaney.
Well, on behalf of myself, I think I'm going to take the opportunity to speak on behalf of the board. I want to thank Michael for the inordinate amount of time that he spent on putting this executive summary together. I can only imagine how many hours he dedicated to this document. I know I insisted on a couple of occasions, but I put next to nothing into this compared to what he did. I also express my thank you to Mr. Valiakonis and his staff. I know they spent an exceptional amount of time culling the data together that Michael used to put this document together. And I think it is a document which this board should adopt and use as our roadmap as we move forward. We have to look to how we got here, as Michael said, take a look at the numbers, peel the numbers back, and start tackling the objectives that we had agreed upon some time ago to move this board forward and to move the community forward. So I would suggest that we should adopt the plan tonight, knowing that it's a living, breathing document, and we can edit it and change it and revise it as we move forward. But I see no reason why we can't adopt this document tonight and put it in effect, essentially, start moving forward with the objectives. Thank you.
Further discussion?
Just, Mike, I had asked a few weeks ago about affordable housing, just to throw it in there. So, and I think under the last, the community character thing, probably a good spot. And the other thing that we don't really mention specifically that maybe we should, constant review of the zoning is going to have to be a major part of the strategic plan if we're going to be implementing things. And again, that adds to the community character. That's what I mean, it has to go with economic development, everything else that goes along with it. But obviously zoning is the driving force as to what's going to allow us to implement a lot of these plans. So,
Good, no, that's, I agree, and I apologize on the affordable housing. I remember us having the discussion. I did go back and look at, the meeting that we had, off-site meeting, the open to the public off-site meeting, and we did talk a lot about that. It's in my notes, and, but I didn't capture it in the document, so I apologize. I will.
Thanks,
make sure we
Jeff.
can then.
That meeting was sparsely attended, so I understand why you moved it off-site. You thought it was executive session, maybe. Not like tonight. They always have a full house.
And I think that the chairman's suggestion as far as breaking out the fixed costs as part of the general cost really does help highlight the increases in cost of doing
Yeah,
business.
that's the one item that,
I think that's.
I mean, he does have the health insurance on a previous page, but that's not all of it.
Mhm.
No, that's
And-
not all of it. It includes the debt service and everything else goes along with it. And Mel wasn't here at the beginning of the meeting, when we talked about how the school department assisted in clarifying some of the numbers. But we're not sure, at least I'm not clear, that what's in here, as far as the school department numbers, does not necessarily include some of the federal grant monies that you get outside of the regular raise and appropriate.
No, these monies are strictly the monies that come from either the town or Chapter 70. So whatever we raise or appropriate or we get in Chapter 70. For example, this year's budget, just the fiscal 11 budget, which we're working under now, I think it was approved at, what, 23 million some odd, but the real budget is around 26 million.
Right.
Because of revolving funds, which are more than $1 million, which are mainly fees, and kindergarten and pre-K tuition, the leftover ARA funds that we saved, other grants that we get. So it's probably more like 26 million if you, which is why one of the things that Mike had in here initially was per pupil expenditures. But that formula has changed so significantly since 2000 that you really can't compare the two, and because it's totally apples and oranges. 2000, none of those things were included, and now in 2010, when they calculate per pupil expenditures, they calculate all the revenue that comes in, including those federal grants. So you can't really compare the two numbers.
I think if we're going to be talking about, painting the whole picture here, I think it's important that we have the total dollars that are appropriated and available, whether it be for education or even on our side, if there's some special grant monies that we have, should be included as a total cost doing, because sometimes when those grants evaporate, they're
Well,
programs that we've embraced, and all of a sudden we have to absorb the cost.
Right.
So I mean.
Like we're gonna see next year.
Which is what we're gonna see next year, right, so if the real budget is $26 million, we should show $26 million.
I'll give you an example of one that I was concerned with. Carl provided SPED information back on a presentation I made quite a while ago. And in he had actual numbers for FY09, and it was a little over $6.5 million. And you see that the number that he
Right.
had given Mike was more like 5.5.
Right, and that's
Now, I
why-
know that's the IDA and circuit breaker money that may come in outside of the normal budget process.
Right.
But the SPED is a major issue,
Right.
and we'd like to get, the actual money spent on SPED in the plan.
I think
Because we
Carl-
know full well that we've got to come up with a method of dealing with that issue.
I think Carl I think he mentioned to me last week that he's pretty much gone back to about 2005 to,
Yeah, that's what he had given me,
Yeah,
from
those total-
2005
right.
forward.
so I can talk to Carl and I can either get those figures or he can go directly to
But I
Mike.
think that shows us the true
Yeah.
picture of really what our costs
What
are,
our-
and
what our
what
true
our
cost-
exposure
right.
has been over the
Right.
years. And, we've been fortunate to have some outside sources of revenue, but we may not always be that fortunate, but the number of kids that are requiring these services,
Well, and
doesn't
part,
necessarily change. But the thing is, how do we address those needs? And I know in the past, the school department's done a good job of hiring paraprofessionals and other people in system to keep the kids in the system, which is far more cost-effective.
Right.
Now, whether some of those people are being paid with some federal grant money, you know, as opposed to raise and appropriate, there's still a cost associated with that.
Right.
And if that grant money dries up, the kids are still here.
Right.
And it's still more cost-effective to do it the way that you've been doing it.
Right.
So, as we're planning, you know, 5, 10 years out, 3 to 5 years out, you know, we know what our current exposure is, and again, all depending upon who moves in and who moves out of town when it comes to this specific issue. But it gives a more true picture of our exact costs. And I think that's what we need to
Yeah, I think I can.
plan on.
work
And
with
if we
you
know
on that.
federal money or state monies are diminishing or increasing, as you say, Chapter 70 has increased significantly and covered some of the gap,
Right.
but the costs have still escalated beyond that.
And, you know, I think this is a great document to get us all focused on what we need to do. You know, a bunch of us here have run our own businesses. I think one of the problems is, though, there's only so much you can control. So when you do 5-year planning, especially with the school department, we're at the whim of the federal government and the state government and what they're gonna decide tomorrow that we're gonna have to do next year. And, oh yeah, we're not gonna give you any money to do it. And I think we're also, you know, in terms of pensions, we need assistance from the state in changing how pensions are calculated and how that works. In order for us to get control, the state has to change the system of how that works also. So, and this is a great starting point, but we need help from the state and the federal government also in getting some of these things done.
Jeffrey?
Yes, with this being a living document, and I think it's a very good document, it will keep us focused, it will help us, give us direction on where we need to go. I think what I'm also hearing, though, is we may need some tweaking on the numbers, if I'm hearing Steve correctly and Mel. The issue also is, if we can work with these numbers, I think we probably should go forward, with this. So, I had a few more questions. It's kind of escaping me at the moment, but I think it's a program that will help us go down the road. Tomorrow night may paint a different picture, and we may have to relook at this whole thing all over again. So we're going to have to constantly update this, possibly within the next 3-6 months, because numbers will be different tomorrow, possibly, than they are tonight.
Any other comments?
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to present that. I do appreciate it.
I would suggest that we adopt this for first reading and give you the opportunity to add those couple of things I think are crucial.
It's good, and then as
sign off on it,
as we start to populate more information that we can integrate in, then we can come back here and present just those changes, and that would be wonderful. But I just want us to walk away, and I want everyone to understand when we walk away that, this isn't just because I drafted most of this, it's my document. It truly is, across the board, unanimously, the board's document that we're gonna take forward, and our plan is to go forward and actually plan for the future rather than to be reactive. And unfortunately, we've been in that situation for many years, but it's wonderful for me, at least it's a breath of fresh air, to become an active board, not a reactive board, and I think this is a really first start, so
I'd like to personally thank Michael and Sean both for taking all of the work that was done over the 2 work sessions over the past 3 years actually, and compile it into a meaningful document and put it in such a way that we think it has not only meaning, but it's an approach to supporting the projects that we have selected as those that we need to move forward in the interest of resolving some of the systemic problems that we faced for the past, as long as I've been on the board, and probably longer than that. So with that, I'll entertain a motion for...
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the executive